So here at Cavalcade, we have an assortment of blenders here in the blender department. Not so much a department as it's a long shelf on the wall with different blenders that I've picked up and over the years. You'll see a lot of familiar brands probably that maybe you remember your mother, grandmother having, or maybe you. Oster certainly is one of the most popular brands of blender, and I certainly have a fair amount of those. Waring, another popular brand. And then of course we have them from the department stores, Montgomery Ward's and Sears Roebuck, and a few others. Sunbeam certainly had plenty of blenders over the years. And so what we're going to do is we're going to sort of get a better look at these wonderful machines and why they were and still are so popular with people not only in the kitchen but behind the bar. And this is the wonderful world of blenders on Cavalcade today. Well, hi there, food friends. It's Kevin.
Hey, and I'm Ralph. I'm behind the camera.
And welcome to Cavalcade of Food. And Ralph, today we're not cooking, but what we're going to do is we're going to take this opportunity to look at some kitchen equipment. In this case, today we're going to look at the good old blender. Okay? Part of the reason why Cavalcade is such a dream come true for me is because I was able to get all my appliances together in one place where I can actually see what I got, and I still don't know what I have.
He's a serious collector.
But I do know that I've unearthed, as boxes have been unpacked, a number of blenders. And so anyways, we're going to take a look at these because I think for a lot of people, blenders are just one of those quintessential kind of kitchen appliances, small kitchen appliances. And in some cases, people use their blenders all the time. And you know what, Ralph? Now we're seeing sort of an era of super blenders, okay? Things like Vitamix and Ninja and some of these other blenders that have very high-powered motors in them.
Well, I've seen the infomercials.
Then you know what I mean.
Whether I like it or not, you see
So
them.
these are going to go back before the days of the super blenders, and these are just regular common household blenders. So this grouping right here is something that we call the beehives, and it's because of the shape of
the base
here. And really the probably the most emulated beehive was done by the Oster company. They were out of Chicago, I believe, and they had this beautiful beehive design on the base. And you can see here's one that's a little earlier. It's not chrome, it's just painted white, and but it still has that beehive shape. And take a look, Ralph. This has two. Basically, it's on or it's off. On or it's off.
So this would have dated back to when, maybe the 40s?
Yes, but this was just like a basic blender for mixing things together. Now here's one that would have come maybe a little bit later in the chrome, and you'll notice it has two speeds. It has low and high.
Would people have used these for chopping up ice and like making drinks?
Yes.
So is that part of like how they became popular?
As a matter of fact, this blender, the Waring, was invented specifically, was inspired by drink making. Fred Waring, who was a popular band leader in the 1930s, there was this cool new drink called the daiquiri. Required crushed ice. And, you know, that's a lot of manual work. And he invented a machine, a blendor. You'll notice that the Waring blender is Blendor. Blendor. He invented the blender, while it did lots of other things, for making drinks.
But do you think it started off as something to help people making drinks, or was it more of a kitchen
It was
thing?
more of a food processor for making baby food, for mixing, for chopping.
Just aiding in the kitchen.
Yes, aiding, exactly. So here's a Waring blender in the beehive shape, but this is a little bit different. This is sort of Waring's take on sort of you see the Oster and you see the Waring. One thing that trademarked all Waring blenders was the shape of the jar, clover leaf, as they would refer to. See how that looks? All Waring blenders had this shaped jar.
So did they patent that design?
They did patent that design, and there was some engineering reasons why the jar was shaped that way, sort of to aid in what we call the cyclonic action that happens when a blender gets going.
Yeah, but it also occurs to me that when you're pouring it, it's nice to have a little variation, so you could like tilt it for a second with, like you're pouring something out of it. You could, so it would come out instead of just like spilling out over the whole round circular edges. It gives it a more of a shape to follow.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, because like in the Oster, which is just square, you'd pour it like this.
Okay,
see, and it would come out of the corner.
Right. But he came up with that clover leaf, Mr. Waring did. Okay.
And a lot of blenders have kind of these center caps that can be removed. And like this one actually has a marking 2 ounces. So if you were going to put, say we were making whiskey sours, and we wanted to know how many shots we wanted to put in there, we could do that.
You could also just take off the top and put a couple straws in there, and then just have your drink to go.
You could do that. The other thing too is if like you're making mayonnaise, and a lot of people would make homemade mayonnaise in a blender, and you have to drizzle your oil in ever so slowly and delicately, this would give you a place to do that without taking the whole lid off.
I'd rather do a milkshake.
Here's a beehive design in a Sears Kenmore. This is actually 3 speeds. Has off, 1, 2, 3, and then off again. So this one has a spout. Okay. I'm pretty sure this was made by Oster for Sears Roebuck, because the base really looks just the same. It's a beautiful blender though, and this you would have bought at your Sears store.
So that has the spout built in, so you can pour without having to worry about the shape.
Worry about dribbling everywhere. So these are the beehives. Now we're going to move over to what we call the multi-speeds.
Oh, beehive.
So these were blenders that 1 or 2 or even 3 speeds wasn't good enough. They're like, you know what? We're gonna take this to a new level.
We're gonna up the game with the blenders.
So here's a Montgomery Ward's model.
Would that have been coming up in like the 50s? And
this is from the 60s. It even says solid state, infinite speed. Solid state, you think, well, why would you have a blender that was solid state? What's the big deal? That really refers to the circuitry inside the blender. But you can see this switch right here for the speeds. It starts with whip and it goes all the way, not just to high, but to super high. Okay? That's like if high wasn't high enough, you click it one more. That's like 11 on the amp, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like Spinal Tap going up to 11.
But
let's get a look at all those different settings.
Whip, stir, cream, crumb, grate, beat, chop, puree, mix, blend, grind, mince, crush, shred, frappe, liquefy, high and super high. And people would say, really, if you put it here, does that mean it's just going to puree perfect? It's like, it's
not much of a
this is kind of a marketing gimmick, honestly. This one also had a timer. So get this, if you wanted to have the thing run for, say, 10 seconds or 15 seconds or 50 seconds, you could just set the timer, set your speed, turn it on, and there it goes.
And then it'll cut off at the right time.
You hear it? Yeah. So this is the variable speed. This is basically a rheostat that kind of controls the speed of the motor. Yes.
So did it go from like 1 or 2 speeds in the 40s to maybe like a few speeds in the 50s to all these different speeds.
Yeah,
in the
these
60s.
multi-speeds became popular in the 60s. So here's an Oster, okay? And it's the bottom speed is stir. I have this one plugged in. Okay, so now it's stirring.
Oh, it's pretty quiet.
Puree. Whip. Grate. Mix. Chop. Grind. Blend. Liquefy.
Blast off.
Oh, frappe. But these are just basically settings, push buttons for this. Because, we were push button crazy. We love things that push buttons. Okay? Something about the Oster that's interesting and something that they always explained in their owner's manuals was the base. So when you would clean the jar. But they made the base and the blade unit
detachable?
Well, many of them are detachable, but they made it a size to fit any mason jar, any canning jar. So look at this.
Wow.
So if you wanted to, this is great for grinding coffee or even milling flour or whatever. You could use a jar. Everybody had
mason jars.
Everybody had mason jars.
I wonder if they use that for canning too.
And this would fit a canning jar, and of course the Oster pitcher here, carafe, just like that. Here is a General Electric multi-speed, and this is kind of cool because this has got the motor back here. It's belt driven, and look at the shape of that.
Wow.
So this was during General Electric's kind of oval period.
What year would that have been?
This would have been mid-60s. Here's a General Electric coffee pot from the same era.
Just for
Do we see a resemblance?
Yeah, they were into that oval shape, I guess. Yeah.
So
did they come up with Ovaltine at that time too?
No, I think Ovaltine was before then, but that's a GE. Again, variable speed. This was a very popular one, and you can tell by the color, sort of the harvest gold. This is coming in the early 70s. This is a Hamilton Beach cookbook blender, and I have to tell you, this is a heavy machine. It's got a very powerful motor in it. It's a good blender, and if you ever need a blender, and you see one of these at a thrift shop or a estate sale, these are good to pick up. The Hamilton Beach cookbook blender. Again, it has the multi-speed. Then we've kind of got some odds and ends down here. I didn't bring them all down off the shelf, but just enough to kind of show. This unit here, this is an AMC, is the brand. And AMC was a brand that was made for department stores across the country, and it was like a department store brand. They sold them at places like here in Detroit, J.L. Hudson's sold AMC, okay? Dillard's would have sold AMC. Kind of mid-upper department store chains had AMC appliances in their store. And this one has a blender attachment. I think they were kind of going for the wearing look, because look, it's only 3 instead of 4, unlike the wearing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of got that 3 clover leaf design.
Instead of the 4.
And it fits on there. So here you've got a blender, although it's only a 2-speed, low and high. And you can take that out, and you can replace it with an ice crusher. Would fit right on there, and you put your ice cubes in there and you jam them down, and you'd have crushed ice for cocktails, shrimp cocktail, things like that.
Very fancy cocktail culture.
And then these are just some kind of unique ones that I have. This one is a Shetland. This is actually kind of a cheap blender, very plasticky. I love the color.
But fun looking, yeah.
Yeah. This you would have bought in the 60s, probably at a drugstore or a Ben Franklin kind of variety store. Okay, it does not have a lot of power.
So it's not real heavy duty.
No, it's got a plastic carafe but it has all the features of some of the more expensive blenders, but it was not an expensive one. But what a cool color, kind of that mint green.
Yeah, it looks very light too compared to some of those other blenders that are heavier to lift.
This one is called a LaBelle. This is a LaBelle blender. It was made by the LaBelle Silver Company in Long Island, New York. So I don't know what they made. They were a silver company, so I don't know. Maybe they made fancy silver plate coffee pots or waffle irons or something. But at least at one point in time, they were making blenders. And here's an example of it. Just a 2-speed. Has a perfectly round carafe that doesn't have a bottom that comes out. So
that would
hard
dribble.
To clean.
That would dribble for sure.
Yeah, but it's sort
solid.
of an oddball.
Pretty sturdy.
Metal lid that you can't open. Here's a Hamilton Beach, kind of cute. This is an older one from the 50s. Has a blend guide on here. Again, it's only 2-speed, low and high, but it tells you for low, chopping foods, custards, salads, soups, croquettes, and then on the high side, beverages, desserts, cream soup, baby food, vegetable cocktails. So, great for making Bloody Marys, other things. Also, I love using a blender to make homemade salad dressings. And we're going to do a whole episode on making salad dressings because it's easy, and the salad dressings you buy in the store usually have a lot of ingredients you probably don't want. And they're so easy to make. And there are books and books and books on salad dressings.
I love using a blender for making milkshakes.
And yes, milkshakes and malts. And I know Ralph uses a blender when you make your salsa, don't you?
I do.
Yes.
It's the way my mom did it. She would use a blender to crush up and blend the tomatoes and the spices and the chilies and the cilantro. So yeah, I think we showed that in a previous episode.
Yeah. And then here's one. This is a Ronson blender. Again, this is just a 2-speed from about 1965, 1966. It's got a plastic carafe, but it's a pretty heavy-duty machine, and it does a decent job. But these are all blenders. These are all things that, again, you can live without a blender, but they do come in really handy for certain tasks. So they're certainly a small appliance worth keeping in the kitchen, as our moms and many of our grandmas did as well.
There's probably a time when blenders just felt like the height of, like modern living.
Yeah, right. They kind of got put out by things like the food processor.
But now we kind of take them for granted, and we find them, like Kevin finds it fun to collect and find the old ones. But yeah, the food processors and other things where, sadly, a lot of people don't even cook at home anymore. But I can imagine there was a time when it just felt like, oh yeah, having a blender at home was like
It was the ultimate. And they still make blenders, and you can buy brand new blenders. There are some excellent, very good blenders out there in new small appliances, and these are just some vintage ones that have stood the test of time, and they still work, and we still put them into service every once in a while. But you know what? Just something that we wanted to share with you, especially my friends at Automatic Washer, all of our friends in the Vintage Appliance Clubs, and we thought you'd appreciate getting a look at some of these blenders. Some of them I'm sure which you have. If you're an appliance collector like me, I'm sure you probably have most of these.
This is, Kevin said, it's just a small taste of his collection.
But anyways, you know what? We had a great time sharing these with you. Thanks so much for being a part of this one. And you know what? We will see you soon enough right here on Cavalcade of Food. Thanks, everybody.
Whether it's food or collection appliances, we'll be back with more another time.
Bye.